Bravo, bravo, writers. This episode here, Season 7, Episode 3, Grand Openings and Closings, was a perfect episode. Now, if I really wanted to, I could be kind of nitpicky to, take the score down from like a 10 to maybe like a 9 or 9.5. I mean, Miss Lisa showed up and she talked with Zach, but why wasn't she, seen during the ribbon cutting ceremony? Or why didn't we see her inside talking with Karen or the other girls? Like, what was the point? That's her daughter. Why isn't Miss Lisa interacting with her? Well, I could easily deduct points for that, but Miss Lisa served her purpose. And also, if I'm not mistaken, in the promo for next week, we're in the same day. Andy's just back at work, and then we see the other girls over at their jobs, but that doesn't mean the grand opening is over. So it is possible Miss Lisa will interact with Karen in the next episode. Now, this other point here, why is this Shauna woman coming and she's the building owner? I thought Karen bought the building. Look, I ain't gonna lie, I have no idea. But here's the thing though. The writers so far have shown that when something is either glossed over or mentioned, we usually get an answer within the next episode. Like last week, when Gary went over to Hayden mentioned how Tamara took all his good stuff, referencing his alcohol when she left. Yet here she goes popping up in this episode and says that she wants to work things out. So that's why I'm not deducting points for things like owning the building or Miss Lisa, because even though it's confusing, we need to let him have a little more time to cook. So let me just say this much. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Yes, Karen was frustrating. Yes. And you know me, I'm called like a Zach apologist, always vouch for the men and talk bad about the women. But even I cannot defend Zach's actions in this episode. No, I cannot. This episode was great, guys. If you've been skeptical, especially after the first episode about the new writers, it's like I said before, give them a little time and they'll turn it around. And they did just that. Episode 2 was a step up from episode 1, but I had my issues with it. But episode 3, chef's kiss. All right. So before getting to the breakdown, take a moment, hit the thumbs up button to show you liked the video. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description. Help the channel get closer to 300,000 subscribers by hitting subscribe. And hit the notification bell and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post content on the channel. Man, this episode. So we start off with the sneak peek. Andy gets to work. Fatima chews her out about not answering her phone. And basically tells her the rundown of what's going on. Hey, Gary, he effed up, and now we're all paying the price for it. Basically, he's done a lot of illegal, shady stuff, and given the fact that the company was involved with Gary, we're all vulnerable. We can all lose our jobs. And I love how real Fatima is about this. It's like, wait, how do you know all these things? Girl, look, I'm ear hustling. All these partners are coming. Everybody's running around like a beehive. All I'm trying to do is put together if I'm going to have a job by the end of this week. So then Hayden pops up. And look, I love how the script addressed my thoughts before going into the episode. I'm like, Hayden in the sneak peek was telling Andy, he's like, hey, I mean, if there's anybody who's had the most dealings with Gary, it was you, Andy. And I'm like, more on a personal level, because Hayden, you're the one who was his tax attorney. And on top of that, you were the one who was the liaison, aka you were the bridge between the law firm and Gary's company. So you're the one who kind of opened the door and let him in. However, he says, like, when the FBI were at my house, I told him everything. Like, pretty much they said he snitched, but I ain't gonna lie. If I were Hayden, I'd do the same damn thing. You can say what you want, but it's one thing to say I'm not going to snitch or, I'm going to lie to my boss or whatever. But when the freaking feds are at your door, I think all bets are off. But in any case, he's like, yeah, I told him everything I know about the deals and everything, but I didn't know anything about Gary's shady business. I told him everything I knew about the merger of like the law firm and his hedge fund business, but in terms of all the legal shady stuff, I have nothing to do. So my name is clean. So things are so desperate that he says, look, the partners are all coming in. Andy, how about this? I don't say anything about you to them. You don't say anything about me to them, and we'll be cool. And Andy's so desperate because I love how Andy's trying to like, well, hey, Gary and I haven't had dealings in a long time. And, well, Andy, what about all that stuff he bought you? Well, it's in my name. Yeah, but if they find out that he used that funny money to pay for it, you might be in trouble. So Andy's like, oh my gosh, oh no. And from there, we get to the point, man, this is crazy. Andy's just freaking out. She's in her office just freaking out. Fatima comes in and she wants to, check to see if everything is, up to date on Zach's case for Michael. And look, don't get me wrong. I'm with Fatima. I want Michael out of his situation. But number one, he's in foster care right now, so he's good. But I get it. She wants to make sure they win the case so he doesn't go back to Heather. But look, Fatima, good and hell well, the entire law firm is falling apart at the seams. Andy's having a breakdown right now. So putting pressure on her is not a good thing. So she does mention like, look, why don't you get some air? Because, there's nothing you can really do aside from try to get your story straight. So go to the salon opening. And I love how, yet again, the script does a great job of showing the difference between Fatima and Karen. So Fatima says, look, go to the salon because, Karen needs your support. And on top of that, and as well as I do, she won't let you live it down if you don't show up. So she opts to go. But Fatima says, look, if you go, make sure you keep your phone on standby because if I call you, that's to let you know it's an emergency. So I'll let you know if your name is mentioned or anything, but go to that salon opening and support your girl. Now, earlier in the episode, Danny's up early cleaning the apartment. And I ain't going to lie, seeing Danny clean was just as shocking as seeing Andy cook in episode 1. Tony wakes up. And instead of helping clean up, he actually just bounces. But it turns out Danny called the therapist and Krisha. And she's coming over today. She's coming over right now. And it's interesting because there was a condom on the table and some people theorize, does that mean Tony wants kids or what's going on with that? But he just tries to reassure Danny that therapy is not a bad thing and he wishes her well in terms of this first therapy meeting or session going well for her. So it's funny because he does say, hey, I'll call you later to check in with you to make sure the appointment went okay. And just as Tony leaves, Danny's like, you know what? I don't want to do this. And she calls Krisha trying to cancel, but she's actually at her front door. So we actually find out that the entire session, Danny was deflecting. Instead of answering any of Krisha's questions, she simply answered with a question. And, she just breaks down, so what made you want to partake in therapy to begin with? And Danny mentions her sister circle, and Krisha just says well, if the people closest to you refer you to therapy, that means they see something that you can't. But it also means you have a good support system. So if you need anything, give me a call. And just remember, if we have another session, just be more open. Don't be so stiff because guess what? It's your money at the end of the day. I'm here for my time, but let's make sure we make the most of it. So regardless of the fact that this therapy session wasn't a complete success, I do applaud Danny for at least making it through. Yeah, you could argue, well, Jeremy, I see you're trying to be a little bit merciful and give Danny some grace, but don't forget, she was actually going to quit if not for Krisha showing up to the front door. But the thing is, Danny made the phone call to set up an appointment to begin with. So I will give her some props for that. I think the episode 5 synopsis says something to the effect of Danny hesitant to do another session, but that's okay because not everybody's just going to grasp onto therapy during the first session. So like I said, I give her some credit for making it through. Over at the bank, Rich comes by to talk with Sabrina about what happened, after the brunch. And Sabrina, is in the is kind of busy, but Rich is like, look, well, I'm going to be at the juice bar all day, so if you want to stop by. And Paige is like, yeah, better his job than yours. And it's like, damn, Paige always micromanaging. So the one thing about this, it shows me like, wow, I bet Sabrina misses Maurice, because this isn't like back in the day when she could just get away with doing whatever on the job. Now, from there, we got Pam doing a live on her social media for the opening, and of course Karen isn't for that. She's like, look, I don't want a bunch of randos coming up in here just eating food and drinking wine and not having them be customers. I'd rather you stick to the guest list. And Pam is, reassuring, like, hey, fresh start, but then the lights go out. Shauna comes in, and this is the confusing part here, because I believe if you go back to the video I did about, is Karen a terrible business owner, then I believe in that video I talked about the confusion of the building ownership. So does Karen not own the building? Because she talked to Shauna about the property manager. Oh, I usually contact that, or I'm usually in touch with the property manager. What brings you down here? And it comes down to insufficient funds in terms of her auto payments for the building. So folks, I don't know. And I'm not going to deduct points, because if you even go back to like when Tyler was writing the show last season, there was conflicting information, or at the very least confusing information about what Brian meant. He kept saying, no. The money, if you repair your old shop, it's the same cost of buying this new building. The only difference is you would be owner. But there were a lot of things that we weren't privy to, like the cost of renovation, what made her take out the business loan, things like that. I guess we will be made privy to that information. I don't know. Hopefully it will get explained soon. But then again, like I said, I don't even think Brian giving or walking away from the job has anything to do with the initial deal. Folks, I don't know. Hopefully the writers will explain it. I don't know. Maybe I'll tweet them or something. Maybe I can get a concrete answer. Because like I said, when Tyler exchanged hands with the writers for the show, some things were just changed for one reason or another. Okay. Now, prior to the ladies arriving at the grand opening, we got Trey stopping by, and it turns out Karen called him to return all of Pam's purchases, because in order to make up for the insufficient funds, Karen had to come out of her own personal bank account and transfer the money over to make the payment so the power and all could be cut on. Now, I don't know how things happened with her previous property manager at her old building, but this Shauna, she don't play around. Karen's like, I could pay you tomorrow. Well, actually, if you want the grand opening to be tomorrow as well, then you can wait. But if you want it to be today, you got to pay right now. So, yeah, that just goes to show you these people do not play. Trust and believe when it comes to me and my mortgage, ain't no jokes. Like, I know for a fact. It's just like when I was making my car payments or when I was paying for my apartment, you make sure that money's in there early. Like, even like as soon as I got my money from YouTube or I made the money on eBay, first thing I would do, I'd pay in advance, because I know what it's like growing up and having the power cut off and seeing, adults having their cars repossessed. I said, I never want to be in that position. So get that money, put it together. Now, to be honest here, not to just continue to crap on Karen, I feel like this is yet another example of her being a bad business owner. When you are this close to the grand opening in like a few hours, shouldn't you make sure all your ducks are in a row? I mean, like, Karen keeps saying how the salon is her life, it's her baby, metaphorically. I'm sorry, but I'm self-employed. I do my whole thing with eBay and YouTube for over 6 years now. I make sure I know my entire cash flow, the money coming in, the money going out. So for her to not look at her books makes no sense to me. And then for her to cut off Pam, rightfully so, it's like, why do you wait until shit hits the fan to put your foot down? It's almost like the same thing with Sabrina and Maurice. Like, Sabrina was the bank manager, and it just seems like she let Maurice get away with so much until things get so bad that she finally decides to act like a boss. And I'm not even going to say rather than a friend, rather than Maurice's welcome mat to just walk all over. And with Karen, it's like Pam is in her corner. But at the same time, she sometimes, don't get me wrong, there are moments when Pam does fix things. Because if it was for Pam, Karen would have lost that salon a long time ago when, what's his name? Isaiah, whatever, took all of her customers. And if Pam hadn't intervened, Karen wouldn't have gotten her customers back. So it's just one of those situations where Karen should just take better care of her money. Seriously, imagine if she was in the middle of the grand opening and the power got cut off. You know how bad that would have looked? So, in any case, she tells Trey to take all the stuff back that Pam bought, and she's cutting off her access to the credit cards and whatnot. Which, again, I don't think this has anything to do with the credit card stuff in, what was it, season 2, season 3, the $5,000 charge in Zach's name. I don't think Pam had anything to do with that. Remember, even though we as an audience never saw, Karen saw on the phone who the person was. If it was Pam, she would have been fired. That makes no sense to have it be Zach for that long. Karen finds out who it was and then not fire Pam if it was her. It was stated to be a client that took the card. So that's my thought. Now, could it be written to be Pam? Yeah, but it wouldn't make sense. So let's hop back to the law firm. Gary keeps blowing up Hayden's phone, and Hayden's like, look, the heat is on right now, man. The feds were at my front door this morning. The partners are at work, and I could lose my job just by talking to you right now. There ain't a damn thing I could do for you. And then Gary's like, man, after everything I've done for you, man, yeah, we made a lot of money together, but I didn't know you were doing that shady shit. You on your own. So he hangs up, and then the camera pans to a person that Hayden is sitting across, and it's like, wait, who's in the office? And it's Tamara. Holy crap. I didn't expect her. I knew she was supposed to be in the season, but I had no idea when she was supposed to show up. So, Tamara looking fine as hell. Wearing my favorite color, blue. She got new hair. Then she comes around the desk, puts her foot on Hayden's chest, and you could tell what he's into. And I'm not kink shaming, because I like a pretty foot myself. More like a socked foot, but that's another story. But in any case, it's interesting because a lot of fans are like, man, Tamara throwing Fatima under the bus, talking about they wanted me to get information on you. That's not inaccurate, though, because that was her whole thing, to distract Hayden and get information. So the main question is, for as bad as she looks, man, why is she back? Because it's been 3 months, assuming she left after Hayden pegged her for a plant at the end of season 6. So I guess we're to assume she's been gone for 3 months. But why come back now? You know, I didn't think I'd really fall for you, and we can make things work. We are so good together. Her money must be low or something, or maybe she's trying to get pregnant because she's like, look, if I wanted to burn you or screw you over, I could have just waited another 3 months, basically until the 6 months of the annulment, passed by. And then she could try to take all of his money, but that wouldn't make sense because even if you get a divorce, that's like, what, half? So I don't really know what her plan is. Am I glad to see her? Hell yeah. And Hayden is too. But I really wish, or I hope, that as time goes on, we figure out more about what her agenda is. Now, what's Gary going to do if he finds out about this? We'll have to wait and see. But in any case, I know Hayden and I would have been easily turned on in that situation, but I'm like, hey, the partners are here. We are in my office, which does not have non-see-through walls. I don't think now's the best time to get freaky. Now, maybe in my car during my lunch break, or I'll wait till I get home, but now is not the time. So, the girls show up to the salon and Karen shows her whole ass. I ain't gonna hold you. If I were any of these women and I took time out of my crazy schedule on that particular day, because all the girls are going through something, and then Karen gives me attitude for 2 reasons about the brunch and then not showing up to help, hell no, I'm gone. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people have pointed out, because it's funny because I did a video yesterday before the episode aired about, why aren't the girls helping? Are the girls bad friends for not helping with the setup? Now, my initial thought is not really, because they all have shit to do. Not to mention, all of them are going through a crisis right now, particularly Andy. But it was pointed out to me, well, Jeremy, it seems that the girls did promise to set up. So Karen's feelings are valid because, well, you said you're going to help out on such an important day, but then when the day arrives, you leave me hanging. And I can understand that, but the thing is, with Andy, shit, if I cut a check that big, it's like, look, hey, I'll be there to support you. I ain't living no boxes though. I'll lift a wine glass or something, but I pay for this shit. But yeah, if she said she was going to come help, that's different. But Andy, understandably, even if she didn't show up, yeah. And look, Karen, I'm sorry, but shit hit the fan to my job. And my career's on the line. And if I didn't stay there to, talk to the people to clear my name, I wouldn't have a job. And then I'll be breathing down your neck for you to pay me back the money that I put up for this salon in the first place. Sabrina, remember, she just got her job back. Now she's fighting with Paige, to, I guess, compete, because in the next episode, we learned that they're going to be going for the same job. And not to mention, she's dealing with the whole Rich thing about the sperm and him not wanting kids and her wanting kids. And then Danny apparently forgot, because I'm like, Danny, you're the one who scheduled this therapy meeting on the same day as the salon opening. So that's kind of messed up. But yeah. So you could argue that Karen was indeed valid in her feelings towards the girls regarding them not helping out on her big day. But the thing that really had me going, okay, Karen, this is the part where it's like, you're being an asshole. She chewed out the girls because of the whole situation of, oh, I saw you being all friendly with Zatima, and I saw you with the post online. And I love how Danny's like, first of all, we invited you. I called you. You said no. Cuss me out. So you can mean your feelings about that all you want to, but you ain't going to take it out on me. And I hated the fact that the girls apologized. I think it was a mixture of, oh, well, because we didn't help out and this is your big day. It's like, hell no. You ain't going to talk to me like that. And then later on in the episode, okay, well, I'll get to that in just a moment. Well, yeah, I'll talk about it now. So we had the ribbon cutting ceremony. And then the girls are inside chilling with Pam. And then, Karen tells her to get back to work. And then the girls brought a gift. And she did, Andy did say open this, later on. So I don't know exactly what it is. But they apologize and say, hey, this is your big day. We're so proud of you. And then Karen, this woman just refuses to apologize. She is allergic to apologies. Because she did acknowledge that she went off on the girls, but I still feel like my feelings were valid, though. And I love the fact that Andy, we got a close-up on her kind of rolling her eyes like, this, really? Really? So, Karen this is, never mind. I'm not going to blow a gasket over this. Karen is who Karen is. How these girls are friends is beyond me. So, in the midst of the celebration, Zatima calls about the fact that, hey, you need to get back here right now because I heard them mention your name. So we got Andy rushing back to the law firm. So outside, you got I'm sorry, I skipped this part. So Zach is outside rehearsing his lines, and it's funny because he's trying to practice how to congratulate Karen, hand her the flowers, and then mention the DNA test. Don't shoot, don't shoot. And then Miss Lisa just rolls up in the car like, you need to learn to lock your doors. I'm like, that's a very good point. And this reminds me of the Oval when Bobby just hopped into Cal's vehicle in this week's episode. Now, at first, I thought she was going to mention the DNA test because Zach was screaming so loud. I'm shocked that Miss Lisa didn't say anything about that. But first of all, great to see her again. She told Zach exactly what needed to be said. What are you doing here? You got these red roses. You're sending mixed signals. You've already made it clear in so many ways that you've moved on. It shouldn't be you giving her flowers. I mean, at best, send her a text message to say, congrats on the grand opening. You want to show your support. But she needs flowers from a man who's available. So, Zach, go home. And I love this. And it just goes to show that I've heard stories. It's like a parent will still have like a close bond with an ex of their child. Like, let's say a son breaks up with his girlfriend for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe he cheated. Maybe they just weren't a good fit. But the mom really loved her. It's like, man, that could have been my daughter-in-law. And they still have a close bond. I feel like the same could be said with Miss Lisa and Zach because she just knows him so well. And it's like, lines need to be drawn. Like, don't. And I think my most popular tweet of the night last night was, while I agree with Miss Lisa 100,000%, what she's telling Zach is what she should have told Karen 3+ months ago back in season 5 about it's clear Zach has moved on, lines need to be drawn, and things like that. But regardless, Zach did need to hear this. So he goes home, and inside the salon, you got Karen talking about how, well, it's funny how he didn't show up, even though I didn't want him to show up, but then I did want him here. And then Sabrina's like, well, it kind of sounds like you want him here. And then Andy's like, no, you better get your shut the fuck up. So Karen is back. It's just Karen. I don't know what happened during that time jump, but now it's like, oh, wow, is she going to have an attitude? Because didn't you literally tell Pam in episode 1 that you didn't want Zach or Fatima in your salon? So now it's like, oh, well, I'm carrying his baby. He could have at least shown. That has nothing to do with it. And also, going back to my point before about Fatima showing the difference between the two characters, Fatima knew Karen enough to say, hey, Andy, if you don't go support your friend, she's not going to live it down. So go ahead. I'll hold down the fort here. I'll let you know if anything happens. You go support your friend. And then on the flip side, Karen's in her feelings about her friends hanging with Fatima because she feels like she's being ignored and replaced, even though she said she didn't want to come to that brunch anyway. So, again, it just shows the major difference of who's the real friend and who's just like the user. Now, we got Zach going home. And, man, it's crazy. You got Fatima, and it turns out Fatima, got home to get some flats and whatnot to change because, it's a crazy day. And she sees the flat. Oh, these are nice. Who are they for? Actually, they were for Karen's grand opening. And then the mood suddenly shifts to talking about how ugly those flowers are. And then Zach's like, a minute ago, you thought they were pretty because you thought they were for you. But then, at first I was on Zach's side because he was really saying like, look, you're the one said play nice, ask for the DNA test. That's why I went over there. And everybody's saying I'm doing too much. But then it's like, oh, Zach, now that I think about it, it's almost like you're saying what Fatima told you to do as a way to cover up your activities, to justify your activities. But then, yeah, the red flowers are giving the wrong vibe. Not to mention, as much as I want this DNA crap to be resolved, this is just bad time. And it's like, bro, this is the grand opening of her salon. I don't think it's a right move for you to show up and support, which in turn does sound nice on paper, but then to use this as I need you to get a DNA test. That's like, what was it? when Cardi B and Offset were going through something a few years ago. I think he had cheated or something and they had broken up. And then she's like the first black female rapper or headliner for something in Vegas. And then he interrupts the performance by coming on stage with flowers. And it's like, yo, don't step on her moment. That's the same thing that was happening here. I think one of my tweets of the night was, Zach's timing is so off here. That's like the equivalent of a man getting birth control for his baby mama when she's in the hospital having the baby. It's like, nah, man, your heart's in the right place, but you're 9 months too late. So yeah, Zach definitely was doing too much. And it just goes back to how I don't like how Zach has been written so far in this season. So from there, the most interesting part here is when Fatima mentions how Gary has the law firm in a panic because of his illegal activity. And Zach was like, wait, what? Word? What's going on? So then when Fatima left, he calls Gary and leaves him a voicemail. It's like, Zach, you haven't been messing with Scary Gary on the side, have you, with the money? So don't tell me he's in trouble too. Now, Gary is actually talking with Penelope. It turns out he went to get her favorite lunch from a restaurant. And he's like, you know, begging for her forgiveness and all. Pretty much, no doubt, the same speech he gave her when he tried to get her back 3 months ago. And it worked. But he's like fidgeting with the tray and whatnot, but then winds up dumping the food on her. So she rushes to the restroom to clean up. And while she's in there, he grabs her purse, takes all of her credit cards, and takes photos of the cards. Like, too easy. And then we know what's going on. Later in the episode, Hudson is using this information and updates Penelope's life insurance. And you got Gary, who's venting about Hayden, Andy, thinking this is all a scheme by one of her exes or somebody to screw him over. And I'm like, is that a Robin reference? Could he be behind the scenes pulling strings like we all theorized? Possibly. So, over at Rich's juice shop. Now, I could be wrong about this, because I do not remember what the name of the juice shop was from season 1. And I know we went to that shop a few times. And then we didn't see the shop again until season 4, when Bio and Sabrina were there. So I guess this juice bar food chain, or this one restaurant, is owned by Rich, maybe, because she did mention it being renovated. So maybe this is the same juice shop from season 1 with a new coat of paint. So they sit down and have a talk about what went down when Sabrina was drunk. And first of all, this is the first time in quite a while I've been invested in Sabrina's story. Now, up front, if you and your partner have extremely different views of what the future looks like, specifically involving marriage and or children, that might be a sign to just cut things off there. Because, well, like they stated, it's just a waste of time. I want kids. You don't want kids. I don't want to get married. You want to get married. So it's like, even if you really care about somebody, you just got to determine whether or not it's worth staying in the relationship. And if not, just move on to other people. But to be honest, like they pointed out, sometimes you might have a specific mindset, but then someone comes into your life and it shifts it around. Like, I don't want kids, but I love this person so much that I see a future with them. And if it means having kids, maybe I'll change my mind. I mean, Rich said that, you know, I have he's the oldest of 8 siblings, and there's been so many nieces and nephews. He's taking care of them. That's why he doesn't want to have kids. Look, you know, I got this one nephew who drives me up the wall sometimes, and I'm like, I don't want no kids. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I do at some point, but I know for me, if I ever get married, I wouldn't want kids right away. I'd at least want 2 to 3 years when it's just me and my wife enjoying each other's company. But I don't know. But this is an interesting storyline, in my opinion. So from there, we round out the episode with Andy getting back to the law firm and Fatima too. And Fatima's giving Andy the rundown about the relationship between Gary's foul play and what the law firm is going through right now. Apparently, Andy's name was brought up 3 times by Leland. And then Andy mentioned, oh, Leland, I know him. So it's funny because Andy says, well, I know what I'll do. I just tell the truth. What do you mean? The whole truth? Hell no, girl. Basically, me and Gary had a consensual relationship. But at the same time, that was a long time ago. And I'm a great asset to the law firm. And Fatima's like, is that really all you got? So, the text from Hayden was like, because I think Andy calls Hayden, but he's not answering the phone. He's pretending to do some work. But he sends a text saying, hey, so I'm in here pretending to do some work because all these people are running around. But I did hear your name 3 times and I didn't say your name at all. So watch out for Leland. Now, Fatima is told by Andy to get Leland and pull him into the office so they can talk. Now, he wastes no time calling out Andy for her sleazy ways. And Andy's like, excuse me? That was a long time ago and it was a short period of time. But Robin even mentioned, like, look, I heard you got a reputation. And it goes back to what Morris was telling her back in season 1 of how the men who run the game look at her. And she has a reputation. Now, you could say what you want about Leland being rude, but here's my take on it. Go back to season 1. Bellamy never wasted time telling Andy or reminding her, look, you're a newbie. We took a shot on you. And you better not screw up. I think Leland was one of the few people who saw Andy's talent for what it was. Not because she's beautiful, but her talent as a lawyer. So it's possible Leland was one of the uppers or the higher ups that vouched for Andy. And then to see Andy, well, be sleazy. Sleazy was a bad reflection on him. And that's why I think he's so mad. And then he began to have a heart attack and fainted. Now, it goes back to what Hayden said earlier about the partners looking for a scapegoat. And then Andy could be that scapegoat. But in the long run, it doesn't really make sense because, like I said before, legal or not, Hayden is far more responsible for Gary being involved with the law firm and vice versa than Andy ever was. So, yeah, it's like they say, when they're desperate, they'll just find anybody. And Leland said that he was going to go to the higher ups and whatnot and then just basically tell them all about Andy and her trifling ways. But Andy got lucky and then he started to have a heart attack. And then that's the end of the episode. Now, with that being said, I thought this was a fantastic episode. I know some people may not feel the same way, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.